administration की wari ओने याम लाई बनी को अदुबु administration दा कोई यिंगदा उसी करिनो terminology दुने कोई ना focus ताऊगदा उसे को because that is what is asked in the exam हंडक जो हाग मने 2025 का Mauryan administration terminology द base ओइबा question हांग मने अभी question the administration दा हांग बा no administration दो इन club ताऊ के भी आए वो को अदुबु मधुगी specific terminology दो खांग द्रगरी नो खुम्बंग अम्मुई ना because करी नो हायो मतलब name of officials a terminology used for officials and ministers across history by different dynasties in different period of time is different. The structure of the administration is more or less the same. So what do I mean by this? You know, ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛꯁꯤ ꯌꯦꯡꯉꯣ ꯗꯦꯃꯣꯀ꯭ꯔꯦꯁꯤ ꯆꯠꯄ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯁꯦ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯀꯣ ꯗꯦꯃꯣꯀ꯭ꯔꯦꯁꯤ ꯆꯠꯄ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛꯅꯤ ꯗꯦꯃꯣꯀ꯭ꯔꯦꯁꯤ ꯆꯠꯄ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛꯁꯤꯗ ꯍꯦꯗ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯁ꯭ꯇꯦꯠ ꯂꯩꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯂꯩ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯅꯪꯅ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯥꯏꯝ ꯃꯤꯅꯤꯁꯇꯔ ꯑꯣꯏꯒꯦꯔꯥ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯦꯁꯤꯗꯦꯟ ꯑꯣꯏꯒꯦꯔꯥ ꯀꯤꯡ ꯑꯣꯏꯒꯦꯔꯥ ꯀꯟꯁꯇꯤꯇ꯭ꯌꯨꯁꯅꯦꯜ ꯃꯣꯅꯥꯔꯀꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯀꯣ ꯁꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯦ ꯁꯦꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯦꯜ ꯒꯣꯚꯔꯟꯃꯦꯟꯠ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯩꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯁꯦꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯦꯜ ꯒꯣꯚꯔꯟꯃꯦꯟꯠ ꯂꯩꯔꯦꯀꯣ headed by these people and central government ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕꯁꯤꯗ council of minister ꯂꯩꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯂꯩꯔꯦꯀꯣ council of minister ꯗꯒꯤꯅ different department की HOD head of department of different departments ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯅꯤꯀꯣ council of minister ꯗ ꯁꯤꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯁꯨ cabinet minister ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯣꯅꯦ cabinet minister ꯀꯣ and then HOD center दा ꯑꯗꯨꯒ territorial organization ꯗꯗꯤ ꯑꯃꯨꯛ state ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯁꯤꯗꯤ India is a one country but divided into different states natra so ningthau matam da su it will be divided into different provinces ka different provinces ekhoi hojik state lai ri se ekhoi muk district lai ri natra ka again moi gi da su again district division lai gi doine district tu gi muk sub division amuk lai rakhi doine sub division dagi block adu dagi na villages last the family dagi basic unit hauraga villages group of villages sida subdivision block subdivision ka or district state and the nation at last the state asigi format almost every dynasties or every empire that is in India or elsewhere or even in modern times follow tawriba adubu masigi hojik ekhoi district kauribdo hojik ekhoi district hairibse Maurya matamdadi district ti kaudeba masa masagi terminology amam laijariba ko Mughal gi matamda district to district kauroiba state to state kauroiba masa masagi matam adugi oiba terminology ama laigani ba madugi terminology duneba ekhoina khangadabse asigi format sidi loina khangani ba nang NCERT do marak paradi ko exam dadi adu hangaroiba ayambada aswaidagi satoga terminology satoga which of them are correct hanganiba which of the following statement are correct with regards to the given terms hairaga rajuka pradeshika aduda pirani statement da they are land owners they are district officials during Mauryan period they are this that and pirani asineba terminology base ko aduna question larik pawa matamda sum wari du khangnaba paba ama wari du khangaganda kona exam da kari hakani haibadu site ta note iraga revise tawba ama asi darkar lai yarise wari du di hojik asida wari du loire Maurya loibe yare sida tawdabu terminology based question ka adu Maurya gi da ningthau gi leba oibani na head tadi kana lairani king lairani ka in every monarchy the king is the head of the state the fountain of justice ka loinamak ningthau dagi lagada ngakni adunadi despotic monarchy ka or paternal monarchy sometimes if the king is good if he treats his subject like his own children like Ashoka ka so yengase ko Mauryan administration in detail. The Mauryas pin tabe ko. Established efficient administrative system. Okay. Adu aikoina khangado the Mauryan gi administration se makhoina hekta haurakibana ko. They also inherit from the previous dynasties, previous kingdoms, empires which rule over Magadha and which was already there in Indian subcontinent. For example, mkhoi na province kan haina khaido ga kona administration tawrakado ri karai dagi inspired tawi hai matamda akhoi na Achaemenid empire and Greek empire, Macedonian empire, India that lakre na Mauryan lakre da ko moi gi satraps ka hai bdo provinces Alexander na hangraba tungda governor myam su thamaga rule tawhori da ko even before that Achaemenid lakpa matamda different division of kingdom into provinces. That is one of the form of administration. Aduna India da sumadu gi mami do khata hawe ko. So and then akoina Vedic and later Vedic yengma matam da bureaucracy khar khar laiba horena person responsible for dividing the loot of the war adu khar khar laiba horena ko. Adu gum am do adu gi learn tawraga moi gi hoji gi high efficient administrative systems moi set up tawrak. So source what are the sources for administration? Sesi lai riu Arthashastra ngarang naina kre ko. Indica Megasthenes naina kre ko. Asokan inscription. Asokan inscription dadi pillar inscription yaure. Adagi rock inscription yaure. The cave dosu inscription kre lai ni ko. Yaure. So those are inscriptions ko. Then Puranas. Gupta period to compile to Puranas me am ko. So based on this, masida based tawraga akhoi Mauryan administration gi history je akhoi reconstruct tawra. Then now let us see central administration. Yeah. Central administration. Highly centralized administration. I have the center dagi ayamba control tawba ko. Adugumba administration ni tawba dabu centralized oe haizeragasu decentralization element di laitaba natte ko. We will see this as we progress with our classes. Emperor was the supreme power and source of all authority, as you can imagine in all monarchy in ancient times. Constitutional monarchy dari natte ko. Monarchy mapangan kanba ningthaulewa oiragadi, this will always be the feature. The emperor will be the supreme power and source of all authority. He was the head of all the three wings of government, legislative, executive, and judiciary. Despite enjoying unlimited powers, the Mauryan rulers were not despotic. But the Mauryan centralized monarchy became paternal despotism under Asoka. Asoka in first separate edict, Dauli and Jaugoda says, all men are my children. Paternal monarchy means the father figure loba state to the call. The Mauryan king did not claim any divine origin, yet attempted to emphasize the connection between kinship and divine power. You know, Hana akoina mamangda nainakiba ningthausingdo divine power claim to ningthau khara laigidana ko. So masida Maurya gi da akoina ubodi karino, they don't claim themselves to be gods. However, they do establish close connection with the divine power. Asoka means, Devanam Pai, piyadasi kaina ko. So what do they do is emphasize the connection between kinship and divine power. So central administration haudribni ko. This is the basic characteristic of the modern administration. Council of Ministers mathakta ningthau laire ko. ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯑꯦꯗꯚꯥꯏꯁ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯤ ꯇꯔꯃꯤꯅꯣꯂꯣꯖꯤꯗ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯀꯥꯎꯟꯁꯤꯜ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯃꯤꯅꯤꯁꯇꯔꯁ ꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯃꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯀꯧꯏ ꯃꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯄꯔꯤꯁꯠ ꯑꯣꯀꯦ ꯈꯔ ꯌꯥꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯉꯥꯏꯈꯣꯀꯣ ꯍꯣꯏ ꯑꯣꯀꯦ ꯁꯤꯅ ꯈꯔ ꯌꯥꯕ ꯃꯥꯜꯂꯦꯀꯣ ꯃꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯄꯔꯤꯁꯠ ꯃꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯄꯔꯤꯁꯠ ꯀꯥꯎꯟꯁꯤꯜ ꯑꯣꯐ ꯃꯤꯅꯤꯁꯇꯔꯁꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯃꯟꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯄꯔꯤꯁꯠ ꯍꯥꯏꯅ ꯀꯧꯏꯀꯣ provided advice aid and advice to the king in discharging the functions hꯧꯖꯤꯛꯁꯨ ꯇꯧꯔꯤꯅ council of ministers ꯀꯣ aid and advice to the president. However, the advice given by the Mantri Parishad was not binding on the king. Asidadi tongare, natra. President has to act according to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers, natra. So, Mantri Parishad was headed by a Mantri Parishad Adhyaksha. Mantri Parishad Adhyaksha. ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯤ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯤ contemporary world ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ is kind of almost synonymous or have the parallel to Prime Minister of today. Three qualities that the Arthashastra stress for Mantri Parishad: birth, integrity, intelligence. Again. There was no fixed number of the members of the council, and it varied according to the need. According to the Council of Ministers, India ki constitution fixed or laitra. Adubu Mauryan ki administration, the Council of Ministers, Mantri Parishad was not fixed, dependent on time, need of the time. So important members of the Council of Ministers: Purohita, Senapati, Mahamantri, and Yuvaraja. Purohita. Okay. Here Council of Ministers kharagi important oibo kharagi kenone ko title ne ko. Then we will go to within the administration there are categories of officials. Yengse official gi maming mayam se ko. Tirthas, the highest ranking officials. Asidi noi sinmana phagoribra natraga ai PDF pengai ayra. PDF su tigani. Abi macet pi sem tan wai kitang yamagadi abi laina adun faina ko.
Sir,
Ngasi class Montreal oiragadi pige.
Sir, explain lower going to PDF when a PB Rosa.
Hoi pige ko.
Kaya
PDF.
daw iba amo kaya to confuse sa diba. Tari
Okay,
kada panta ho naga PDF to the year.
okay. PDF to orin class loiraga yengase. So asidadi yo aina thoina explain tawruningai di laitreba. Ming duga contemporary translation duga khaktane. ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯑꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯅ ꯑꯦꯛꯁꯄ꯭ꯂꯦꯟ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯕꯨ Mauryan administration is more efficient bureaucracy, efficient administration lay. Because look at this. Council of Ministers. Council of Ministers marak to the khwaidagi mapangan kanba. Of the important maru oiba Council of Ministers, Prime Ministers. Naireko. Equivalent to Prime Minister. Adudagi there are different ministers. Some in charge for defense, some in charge for religious activities, whatever it is. Different Council of Ministers with different responsibilities. On top of that Council of Ministers, there are also officials, important officials. Chief Secretary, DGP, officials. Officials, officials, Superintendent of Mint, Superintendent of Market, Superintendent of Tolls. And then you have, see, Superintendent of Agriculture, Superintendent of Port. So that means well-efficient bureaucracy. Aduga, asida judiciary's officers, Superintendent of Mines, Superintendent of Excise, Sole Superintendent, Controller of Commerce, Superintendent of Weight and Measures, Superintendent of Iron, Superintendent of Ports, Superintendent of Agriculture. Yeah. Asida, aikoina hauzik 1 dagina 13 bhau officials in si yengma matamda kari hui. I think it almost corresponds to the present bureaucracy. Almost 100% have not take off. Maybe the sophistication is different. Mines, moidasu lairi. Trade and commerce, moidasu lairi. Agriculture, moidasu lairi. Judiciary, moidasu lairi. Revenue, moidasu lairi. Natra. So, administration the almost the framework even khara manara kaneva loina ko adu aina sa have terminology adu noina pagada udi karino terminology duni aduga Mauryan administration the mains da su yaude no syllabus da adu Mauryan administration paraga province da khaido adu oda I da usu darkar laite so the basic framework Mauryan administration king as the head council of ministers and then head of department of different departments and then officials, the country empire divided into provinces, district, subdivisions, villages. And then you will know officials operating in each level. So knowing the officials operating in each level and this kind of terminologies, knowing memorize the Mauryan administration NCRT da natra lyric da su yam sangma paro du di kana roiba. Adu paro da asimi yam su yauroi. Yauram bataraga su as a passing reference chat ki because when you're reading history, you're reading the story and you miss out on this. Asimi yam sina no in a note on a paro exam da. Because Mauryan administration, ancient India ki sidi administrative part sidi ayam mana previous year question da no in yengma matamda or syllabus se yengma matamda MCQ based question prelims ki syllabus ne ba MCQ based question de sine ba hang do se adu moina noina NCRT do phajana pawa taragadi or class do phajana yaw taragadi you will understand moina general information based question hang ko for example Mauryan statement am pira ekhalone general information on the Mauryan empire is a militaristic empire, a military-based empire. Chumgadra langadra. Ha. Chumgadra because empire army was the mainstay. Do you have the remaining lower ni? Natra. Ningthau ki part ko dai degi lai no. Apangando army degi lai ni. Ko. Adu the questions like Mauryans have follow the rule of primogeniture in succession. Primogeniture haibadi rule of succession is lai haibani first born duna ningthau oi haibani ba. Rule of primogeniture. Rule of primogeniture lairak tawdane Mughal matamda shagai na kiudo. Mayudi mapa sigrado mapa do phumdringai da machi mana using lan songnare mapa manam thorai do. Rule of primogeniture laitaba. Maurya ki matamda rule of primogeniture like ko tawbudabu not followed all the time exception ni adum laigani India da nupi amada hen thivi ade thina residi exception will be there ko as a rule oina di laiyeba mogi ko adu follow ꯇꯧꯗꯕꯒꯤ ꯋꯥꯅꯦꯕ Asoka is said to have killed 99 of his brothers to get the crown so asigumba kari haigani and then the Mauryan kings adopted high sounding titles chumra lanbra chumena devanampa piyadasi high sounding titles natra ko in a way so adun asigumba keno mayams and then examples again Mauryan empire is secular in character chumgadra langadra secular in character state religion only like you Brahmins you like and ngarang kain class ta Asoka gi edict si pabal da respect to wine hydra adu brahmanas nyam dusu aduga religious tolerance lai aduga features of secularism dun lai ki ko and asigumba sing sidi ko kitang thadaraga NCERT du pawa gana kitang mun para ko kitang thadaraga di adum exam hall du tak tak lak pa yaba khakne ba nang asi myam si kamaina revise or memorize or lai de kana deba asi myam de class da pham lai re asi myam si revise or lai re kari kana re gen wakhando khanba tambe wane aduna adubu masi myam sidi asi myam sidi memorize tawdri upai sulai laite class pung kun mari pham ju sidi nang memorize tawdri upai laite chat ki gani ba sidi kok to lai yaro ba ko you have to memorize again and again I don't know like pa mo sumda yade ai re nang NCERT do kunthra rak pa ba asigi model se chumna anirak tang hanna pa ki ba chatra do ga anirak hanna pa ki bu na ma hena phangni ba nang nang NCERT kunthra pa ra si myam se khang retention taw ngam do na che wari du di khang ani hotel da cha thak pu da wari di li bu no ai para ne na Maurya ki wari do khang ngam na main taw ki ne main taw exam da hang du juang khang ro because exam da di ancient history di pinpointed question no handa shape yep tha du khang ngam ni pinpointed terminology dak lang sila hangani wari do hanga roi ado ne ba ko so that is what you do okay Mahamatras Why mathakta official da tirthas laire ko tirtha gi mathakta rank just below the tirthas adhyaksha mayam sine tu hoje khone nainari se ko and then Mahamatras occupying higher position Mahamatras played essential role in administration Amatyas again another high ranking officials with administrative and judicial responsibilities kari no ne pangchong chong da okay military administration ji yeng se ko military administration led by the king himself most of the time many times according to Pliny asida again remember this number is not important here number do the yamaru oite ko adubu the sense the messaging that is given through this number 6 lakh foot soldier lairambe lairamda bi adubu number do accurate oramda bi adubu we can well imagine that the Mauryas has a very strong army natra so according to Pliny Chandragupta army in Pliny se kanano Pliny larik ama kidai kana hanai ki do Latin gi oiba larik ama Latin de iba ko historica naturalist sabra kanam haida Pliny thenrak tro sources te yo Greek Latin source ta naturalist historic ko so according to Pliny Chandragupta army included 6 lakh foot soldiers 30,000 cavalry 9,000 elephants 8,000 chariots say different department within the military cavalry yauri elephant yauri chariots yauri foot soldiers infantry yauri navy di ubu phangdri ko navy di ubu phangdri why because matam adu da transport navy ude hairaga water transportation laiti haivanate ko because the rise of Magadha itself was facilitated by the presence of these rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and then the various tributaries. maduna means of transportation hena mating pangi bodo kaduna they have the water transportation di lay adu navy lay ti hai bone ko lairam busu yai adu boy historical records yeng bagan thing na de ko so this is important. The army's salary was paid in cash. Maybe not all the time, but pesada tolopi budi haurapni sila ko paid in cash. According to asidagi na asipa Pliny na hai bani sina ko. Aduga asidagi si this is what Arthashastra has to say. So the military was divided into 4 wings called Chaturanga Bala. It was under the control of Senapati. Nasa na Council of Ministers yung matam na Senapati thengna kibnatra. He is the in charge of military. Infantry, cavalry, war elephants, and chariots. Aduda masi terminology miyam ju khakha khangjin biro. Infantry, cavalry du irai gre khangani hangagadi. Asi hangapudi khangaro idu. Khangda ba idu oidu ne loan khangda bagi. Yare ko. Aduna ai noi da haining bino NCRT do pajaraga su. Asi ju khakha pao ko. NCRT du di yao da ni si yam se. Megasthenis na mukari hairi yeng se. Describe the administration of the armed forces as comprising of 6 committees or board with 5 members on each of them. Board of Naval Warfare. Naval Warfare yauri sida. Adubu, how strong will the Navy be? That is a question. Adu Arthashastra dadi ekoi ugo phangde. We don't see this. Blini gidesu ekoi ugo phangde. Megasthenis kidi ugo phange. Adu question se Navy se laibra hairagadi noi kari haigani. I lay high OCD mention tawrabnina ko a specific oina adu scholar adu gi nupaduna haiba natteba generally labor late abdi laiga haina statement piragadi ko I would say you use this board for supervising transport of war material asi kaino neba historical debate ni khana ya roi ko aduna in all likelihood hangju hangoi ko kariguma hangba taragasu haiba ne adu noi gi laibak te leire चुम्मेन खान मेरो ऐना नहान इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन की एग्जांपल पी बरो यूपीएससी की एग्जांपल सिदने लाइबक हाइसे लाइबक हायगो हंद एमपीएससी दु तौरी सिदी क्वेश्चन तरुक एमपीएससी ने चुम थोरक बुदा क्वेश्चन तरुक बुदा मार्क ट्राइन थोइने क्वेश्चन तरुक मक तो ऐना खंगदो क्वेश्चन गाक तो एरमो ऐगिरी तरुक तो 12 तो एक्स्ट्रा फंगिब नत्रो ऐना खंगब क्वेश्चन ने खल्लो क्वेश्चन तरुक तो हंगे मयामदो अदु ओरदी क्वेश्चन तरुक तो खंगिबा ऐदुगा तरुक तो खंगदेबा मादुगा चा माना मार्क ट्राइन थोइ फंगदोनि Mangzo si kana. Sidane laibak siare ko. Asida yo. Asida di loina infantry, cavalry, carriers, elephant corps. Asidi loina yanare. Mon marima. Leni su yare. Megasini su yare. Arthashastra ki su yare ko. Si transport of war materials si budi logistic landu taurabni laigni si di ko. Naval warfare we don't know. Adu megasinis nadi lai hairi ko. Espionage department, spy department. Men by say, assume Kangilosi terminology say, Gudda Purusas, Gudda Purusas, spy, Gudda Purusas, Anito Nakairin, IB Garo, stationary agent, Hamsan, and wandering agent, Sanchari. The secret agents were also referred to as Charachaksu. Or Charachaksu. Spy the Makan ani Kaidoi, Muhammad Laiba spy, stationary agent, or wandering spy. Samsthan Amasung, Sancharis. Yareko. Judicial administration. Judicial administration was carried out on the basis of Dharma Shastras and Vyavahara, legal codes, Raja Sasanas, royal decrees, and Charitas, custom. How's it Judicial administration. Judicial administration say by law. ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯂꯣꯒꯤ ꯃꯇꯨꯡ ꯏꯟꯅ ꯑꯣꯄꯔꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯒꯗꯧꯕ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯀꯣ ꯇꯧꯕꯗꯕꯨ ꯀꯁꯇꯝꯅꯁꯨ ꯕꯦꯁ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕ ꯑꯦꯛꯖꯥꯝꯄꯜ ꯂꯩꯀꯥꯏꯗ ꯋꯥꯊꯣꯛ ꯊꯣꯔꯛꯄ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯀꯣꯔꯠꯇꯗꯤ ꯆꯠꯇꯦꯅ we try to solve the problem based on customs and traditions ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯐꯥꯎꯁꯨ ꯇꯧꯔꯤ customs and tradition ꯗꯨ ꯀꯗꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤ derive ꯇꯧꯔꯛꯄꯅꯣ based on your context it can derive from your social practices or from your religious affiliations and values it may be different thing but still based on custom and tradition follow taunarina ko so judicial administration Maurya gi matamda karamba basis ta carry out tawi hai matamda based on dharma shastras and vyavahara legal codes raja sasanas royal decrees and customs masida based tawraga in judicial administration je mathau pangthoi ko so there were two types of courts as per Arthashastras Dharmastya and Kantaka Sodhana. Kantaka Sodhana, criminal courts. How's it criminal court ka civil court like this? Session judge and district judge. So, Hana Moria matamdagi lai rakha civil court and criminal court. See ko? Okay. Trial by ordeal. How's it Tauri? Tauri ko. No market tribal culture khare masik khare lai. Iwani si yet na re. Kana chumno khangre. Ising loop na zara ni. Ado lai nung di lai nung kurma lai tin te taura ko. Loop ka daw. Lan dum challe. But Gam scientific oy that's open to scientific oy with the oy higher is it. Ado taudi taunari. Ado misus kana tau su yaunari ko. No this should like you practice. Trial by ordeal is an ancient judicial practice by which the guilt or innocence of accused was determined by subjecting them to painful or at least an unpleasant, usually dangerous experience. Jal divya, jal had ishing or money, Agni divya, fire or money, Vishal divya, I recurry or jano. I'm sing drain. Poison. Severe punishment were given for ordinary crimes. The nature of punishment depended on the nature, gravity, circumstances, and the varna of the offender and the plaintiff. Chubra. Nature of punishment depended on nature, gravity, circumstances, and the varna of the offender and the plaintiff. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Same crime or punishment is tongan never. Asida Varna system ki element de dum ugo phange ko Brahminical influence. Ha. Plaintiff. Kari oido mali. Plaintiff hai budi someone abdi kari hai ni. Ai se justice needed nupa hai in short ko or the person involved in that case ko. ये होने exact terminology अदु idea दी अदु नहीं but literal interpretation दो ये हो करी हाय exact word हाँ poison है ब्रा अच्छा मसी common sense दी लगी है trivial punishment तो उन्हें यारी पोज who's था ला मुनी जी ना या अदु या
मैं तब ये बिजली जम कर मारे ऐसे सर के वो तरह क्या है कि वो इनको गया क्या पोजन दोस्त तो ये
तब हाँ तो पा अदु ने the person seeking justice को so यारे को then we'll go to exact have the terminology to the exact word to literal have the suppose example kari hai ni good hai good ki definition si kari ho no amodi lai ni na different interpretation essence to the height like if you have the word to the exact meaning like na ko adu gi wa ni da the Supreme Court was located in the capital. Chief Justice was called Dharma Thikarin से चीफ जस्टिस की टर्मिनोलॉजी का यदि जस्टिस सिस्टम से कोई ना हौजिक फाव करी उरी मौर्य की जस्टिस सिस्टम से चीफ जस्टिस ना हेड नते को मथक तरी निंथौ लेरी is the fountain head of everything अदुदा चीफ जस्टिस लेरे अदुगा कोर्ट सुप्रीम कोर्ट से कैपिटल दे लेरे को चीफ जस्टिस अदुदगी कोर्ट से सु अमुक सिविल अमसुंग क्रिमिनल हाइदोगी को अदुदगी डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल दसु कोर्ट से लेरीब्रा लेरी को अदुदगी टाउन्स दसु अदु टाउन ददी कोर्ट बंग नत्रगसु मोर और लेस they are settled by the townspeople headmen वगैरह businessmen वगैरह मदद लाइव guild में आम दुनो को आम बना that is the work done by them सी नगरा व्यवहारिका महामंत्रा हारिसे को villages cases were settled by grama prada असिदा judicial official लाइपोते village तक को village headman न lead तौरगा village elders करके तौरगा सोप तौगरो नि cases में हमसे अदुबु असिदा कोन उरिबो पिक्चर दि करिनो जुडिशियल सिस्टम से वेल एस्टैब्लिश ओय हायनेबा एफिशिएंट ओय सुप्रीम कोर्ट लेरी डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल द कोर्ट लेरी डिफरेंट ऑफिसर्स टू डिस्पेंस जस्टिस विलेज लेवल दि हौरगा को डिसेंट्रलाइज ओयद्रा जुडिशियल सिस्टम से लोइनमक सि निंथौदि चत्तेबा को रेवेन्यू एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन रेवेन्यू द यिंग से जस्टिस लोइखरे होय को बेसिक मसी रेवेन्यू से लाक्त्रिंग है अमतंग असी हान तौ मसी तौगदो फगदो मालिदा let me just check okay असी की से हान बसिल से अंते दिखतंग कनो मिक्स अप तौरने एने से हाई किबदो किंगडम से divided into province and this province further subdivided into state every district subdivision hai bado ado hana si tawr se call let's finish this here okay stay okay now administrative division kaya thokna khaidoeba Maurya gi matamda ruled by the king territory directly ruled by the king was divided into 5 provinces Kol the padas. Kol padas. Okay. Provinces se kaya na yun? Mga ko. Yung si. Look at the map here. See. Ubra. Uttarapada, Northern Province, Western Province, Eastern Province, Southern Province. Asida noina khangada buli se Taxila, Ujjain, Tosali, Suvarnagiri, Magadha. Or see ko. Administration provinces divided into 5. Then now let us see the provincial administration. Provinces were headed by governor. Howjiksu state headed by governor. Referred to by two names. Matamadu the governor se karihaina kawi. Kumara or Amatyas. Kumara sina kanano, usually member of the royal household. Amatyas, officers, governors, but not the royal household. Ko. Asidasu, the governors is headed by the Council of Ministers, and it has its own bureaucracy. Ko. Which was more or less the exact replica of the central government. Actually, the central government ngasai nena krena. Council of Ministers, head of department of various departments. Nena krena ko. So adugi type ta asidasu provincial administration dasu. Provincial administration ki head kanano, governor, and then with that corresponding heads of departments of different departments ko or ministries. CRM. They were directly held responsible to the king and not to the governors. Kaya duniko officer mayam do. They were appointed by the king. Say, asine. Provincial administration say head say governor oijeragasu. The officers most of the times were appointed by the king and they report to the directly they are responsible to the king, not the governors. Ko. Adu governor the response taraku oiragadi. Governor na recruit chu tawwa governor na roina control taraku taragadi. Ningthau mapangan hek solakpa matamda governor na ai ningthau ni haragadoni. Adu my officer mayam dusu because since they are responsible to me, Kariwarani, they will be loyal to the governor and not the king. So now district provinces further subdivided into district called Aharas. Aharas Pharisee district puniko. Asi question se handak hang bane. Kaya 2025 ta. UPSC 2025 ta ko. And I'm using the same slide that I used to teach the previous batch. Ado mo na paba taramagadi yaure. And the history, ancient history question mga mukhang may. All the questions were from these slides. I know this tak this scenario slide say. Question loy na mag the slide to loy na yaw. I think that's a good bet, natra. And the kal daw kasu yaw male. Ado ayo yung daw yara sa atrasing tarak to the kana deva. No use. Pradesika. Kanano, he was in charge of the overall administration of the district, supervising collection of revenue, and of maintaining law and order, both in the rural areas and in towns and within his district. Pradeshika, overall in charge, Chief Secretary Hairasine, Rajuka, Chief Secretary Hair, DC Hair, provinces Chief Secretary Hair, district district administration. So Pradeshika is DC ki time. In charge of overall administration of a district, asimang natro DC na tawrida. So supervising collection revenue to maintaining law and order. Police to na ground the church section 144 to the DC na thora kada hone SP na thoga apote ka. Rajuka, responsible for surveying and assessing land. SDC jo ek tawdro ma tawak sa. Adu Yuktas. They appeared to be the subordinate officials whose duties were largely secretarial work and accounting. Pradeshika, Rajuka, and Yukta as district administration. Then village administration. The smallest unit of administration, the head of the village was called Gramika, who was assisted by Gram Biras or village elders. Gramika was not a paid servant, he was chosen from among the village elders. He may have supervised tax collection of the villages and other matters such as discipline and defense. Gramika, Gram Biras, asi khangzilo yare. He is not a paid official. Kira am details changudrasu yare. Then municipal administration. Municipal administration, town administration. Village administration ga town administration ga di mana bhi aro ina ka. So town administration se kanana organized hui. Municipal administration headed by Nagarika. Ka. Si. Asti no moi hairi je. Nasai megasthenis na sina budo. Durajuka do oyini na hairi budo ka. Sini. Asida town administration da koi na khanga da budi karino. Terminology da uma khangzilo. And then different boards there in town. Asidi you don't need to memorize. Asigumba question is like super padra so solve the question. Town lay higher the organization kare lay ramgan. Town lay higher means town do organized out how will the town exist? Town do efficient order roiba. Ya men taro the madan mucha raneva. Mucha baba oidragasu it will never be efficient. Town do lay higher the industry, trade and commerce lay rani. Adu lairiba town do regulate tawamani darka tareva town committee. For example, business committees. Ekona guild so thengna krena hana kakra. Mamangi class ta trade organization kakra thengna bahawravne. No kawravre dikhangde. Adu ekoi Manipur ki context de yamo. Cities and towns. Street vendors association lairi city. Wholesalers association lairi city. Druggist association में हम लाइरी city, wholesaler में हम association, drivers में हम association लाइरी city. Different profession, different guild, different when a guild का हारी तो अदुने बा how की context different associations, and they will control the price and quality also sometimes. अदो कमोई for example Manipur दी येन योन बाई जुलाई घूमता हूँ, अब दी येन poultry घूमबगी poultry जुलाई बनी. Mapandi pusilakpa thing be for people and price regulation. So aduna I say member ama oiraga. Mayam na yana ki badu moina tauri badu guild mayam na tauri badu karigino for the welfare of that group. Mayam na decision se launa re. Trade se survive tauna ba predatory pricing se tauraro isena. Lupasani yankai de yana re. Ainel pasam kundi yon sila te kamain tawa. Madugum mayam se hojike hairiba municipalities te lairiba organization mayam board mayam na regulate tawgi wane da. So example kano noina every question daga hangi khalone. Mauryan urban or municipal administration da traders mayam su administration de yawi ga hairone. Obvious neva. Not as an official. Sarkar appoint over official the oiramoy, but adubu makoju town administration to the dum yawrakaneva. Because they are also stakeholders in that. So every kitang reasoning and common sense is in a high. Aina noina nahan he class horapu matamda previous year question kar uhandra. Reasoning season kramina solve tawuni gaina. Agronomics and microsatellite DNA ningsing ibra. Ningsing bra. Ningsing ibra na. Moi kawra maleda. ꯑꯩꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯂꯥꯏꯔꯤꯛꯁꯤ ꯄꯥꯔꯕ ꯃꯇꯨꯡꯗ ꯄꯥꯈꯤꯕ ꯅꯣꯂꯦꯖ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯣ ꯁꯤꯖꯤꯟꯅꯕ ꯍꯩꯌꯨ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯋꯥꯅꯤꯗ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯃꯣꯏ ꯈꯤꯇꯪ ꯔꯤꯄꯤꯇꯦꯁꯟꯗꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯑꯅꯧꯕ ꯈꯔ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯤꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯈꯔ ꯔꯤꯄꯤꯠ ꯇꯧꯔꯒꯦꯀꯣ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯃꯔꯨ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯅꯤ ꯌꯦꯡꯉꯣ ꯑꯣꯀꯦ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯖꯨꯗꯤꯁꯤꯌꯔꯤ ꯂꯣꯏꯈ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯔꯦꯟ ꯑꯦꯟ ꯔꯦꯚꯤꯅ꯭ꯌꯨ ꯇꯧꯗ꯭ꯔꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯣꯀꯦ ꯁꯤ ꯂꯩꯔꯦ ꯁꯤ ꯋꯤꯜ ꯗꯨ ꯗꯤꯁ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯟ ꯑꯃ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯗ ꯍꯪꯉꯦ 2023ꯒꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯕ ꯃꯥꯜꯂꯦ ꯃꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯁꯤ there is one particular animal ꯃꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯑꯦꯅꯤꯃꯦꯜꯁꯦ ꯀꯩꯗꯧꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ this animal ꯃꯔꯤ ꯄꯤꯌꯦꯀꯣ ꯃꯣꯏꯅ orangutan sloth bear flying cat fishing cat 하이브라 그놈 아니다 아두가 otter 하이브라 no civet otter 아시나 까리네바 까리노네 떠오르시고 아이 hujikda 하이기다나 제 civet otter orangutan di kaure mari piyebako piraga moina hangise masigi jiba mari si manungda jiba ama lay and this animal use stick as a tool chai se tool on jinaraga scrap from the holes or from the bark of a tree scrape for insects and eat what for what oidabe that is the essence of that question lairiba jiba mari manung sida jiba ama lay masigi jiba sina chai ama pairaga u akang banatraga u apumba da tin je khoto oga sai sini karamba tin oy karamba jiba oy doino sini karamba lairik tu thingnage orangutan oy doine answer di adu karamba lairik tu no si thingnage ba ekhona UPSC gi lairik pao haina piriba lairik sini suk thengna roiba discovery channel ga yenga ura sidi phajai ne na siamba oram su ya we don't know animal behavior question hangba oram wiggle dance se karamba animal na tawi ga na hanga question se maira mi adubu aina haining badi exam hall da thakat kano khangdre yare khangdre nang adu kai dawru ni adubu you have to back yourself up backing up nasagi strength nasaga confidence laiba ma darkar laiba chahi ama mo hai lai para ni UPSC ki damak adu mamang the college karaga BA MA loira ni so you have some tools with you adu mayam do UPSC ki na history ki syllabus ta history khaktang sinaraga history ki answer quote ke nahi lai theba common sense apply to quote pe aaya so higher question to the common sense chai je khulai oine sizinaba ngamme hairibneba use the stick as a tool khulai oine sizinaba ngamba haibase IQ wangamba da ya wangam ngane ba IQ do wangdragadi khulai oine sizinaba hairoba koi maru oina chaitek to pairaga khotle hairibneba chaitek to paira khot ke haidi ekhoi sigumba mawong da khut darkar laitro chai do paiba ngamnaba hawdong dona hui khut che paiba ngamoina chai do paiba ngamoina ko chai paiba ngambagi capacity laigado ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯒꯨꯝꯕ ꯈꯨꯠ ꯂꯩꯕ ꯑꯃ ꯃꯊꯧ ꯇꯥꯔꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯑꯣꯏꯔꯗꯤ ꯑꯟꯁꯔꯗꯣ ꯄꯣꯛ ꯑꯣꯔꯥꯡꯒꯨꯇꯪ ꯇꯥꯔꯗꯣꯏꯅꯦꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯅꯣꯏꯅ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯟ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯣ ꯃꯦꯃꯣꯔꯤꯗ ꯕꯦꯁ ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯁꯣꯜꯕ ꯇꯧꯒꯦ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒꯗꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯣꯕ꯭ꯂꯦꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯕꯨ ꯍꯤꯁꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯒꯤꯁꯤꯗꯗꯤ ꯁ꯭ꯄꯦꯁꯦꯜꯂꯤ ꯑꯦꯟꯁꯤꯌꯟ ꯍꯤꯁꯇ꯭ꯔꯤ ꯃꯦꯃꯣꯔꯤꯗ ꯕꯦꯁ ꯑꯣꯏ ꯇꯧꯗ꯭ꯔꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯗꯕꯁꯨ ꯂꯩ ꯇꯔꯃꯤꯅꯣꯂꯣꯖꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯣ ꯇꯧꯕꯇꯕꯨ ꯖꯦꯅꯔꯦꯜ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯟ mayam ama term abdi nang memory the based tawdraga su common sense the based tawraga solve tawba yaba question mayam su layaba adu history dadi kitang analyzing tools se khara tongala ni nang na chronological sense ama khang ba darkar thai historical sense chronological sense ama chronological sense to khang dragadi nang common sense apply tawba kitang wow ni history da ahan ba akon ba laidra ko adu ma mayam do khang dragadi for example iron age civilization iron age se later vedic period ta hawbani natra adu indus valley site ama pisil laga ama sigi site se da iron plow phangi haina pisil lawne nang larik paabda su teng thena draga su ai indus valley civilization di copper bronze age civilization ni iron natte tak tara ne pop tara neolithic site ama pisil laga adu copper or bronze artifact phangi haira mone mirror phangi ga haijilone ꯑꯗꯨꯗ ꯅꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯂꯥꯏꯔꯤꯛ ꯄꯥꯕ ꯃꯇꯝꯗ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯣꯏꯕ ꯀꯩꯁꯨ ꯌꯥꯎꯔꯝꯃꯒꯁꯨ ꯔꯤꯇꯦꯟ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯉꯝꯃꯣꯏꯕ ꯁꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯂꯥꯛꯀꯗꯧ ꯅꯣꯏ ꯍꯦꯛ ꯎꯕꯗ ꯃꯦꯃꯣꯔꯤꯗ ꯕꯦꯁ ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯁꯣꯜꯕ ꯇꯧꯅꯕ ꯇꯧꯔꯗꯤ ꯊꯥꯒꯠꯂꯅꯤ ꯄ꯭ꯔꯦꯁꯔ ꯂꯩꯔꯅꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯑꯦꯛꯖꯥꯃꯤꯅꯦꯁꯟ ꯍꯣꯜ ꯍꯨꯃꯥꯡ ꯇꯥꯔ ꯊꯣꯛꯑꯅꯤ ꯈꯪꯗ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯐꯔꯦ ꯃꯩ ꯃꯦꯃꯣꯔꯤ ꯕꯦꯁꯇ ꯁꯣꯜꯕ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯉꯝꯗ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯊꯅꯝꯃꯨ ꯆꯠꯂꯨ ꯅꯦꯛꯁ ꯔꯥꯎꯟ ꯂꯥꯛꯑꯣ ꯀꯔꯝꯕ ꯇꯨꯜ ꯑꯦꯄ꯭ꯂꯥꯏ ꯇꯧꯔꯒ ꯁꯣꯜꯕ ꯇꯧꯕ ꯌꯥꯏ ꯁꯣꯜꯕ ꯇꯧꯅꯕ ꯍꯣꯠꯅꯧꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯆꯍꯤ ꯑꯃ ꯑꯅꯤ ꯄꯥꯈ꯭ꯔꯕꯅꯤꯅ you will always find some ways to solve that question. So now we'll go to land revenue. Land revenue was the most important source of income to the state. Percent kya no? 1/4 of the produce. Land revenue collected in cash and kind. Okay. Asida noina khangado bhai buse. Financial year during the Mauryan period began in the month of Asda. Asda se modern terminology the karino yo karam thano yo. When Asda irise. Do shishi. June or July ko Asda. Samaharta, head of revenue department, Sanidatta, head of treasury department. Terminology again. Asini se hangju hangravni ko exam da. Terminology asini se hangju hangravni. Samaharta, Sanidatta. UPSC da su hang kanu tau atopa exam da di hangrav CDS CPF natra SSC exam mayam ko hangdi hangravni jai thengna kremas. Samaharta, Sanidatta. Samaharta, head of revenue department. Sanidatta, head of treasury department. Yeah. It's all about terminology, Shiridi. Yareko. Aduna asimayamse aina yaw haibaneba. Noina sagi condense yamna concise oiba note same gi haiba taragadi. Asida noina khangadawa haibabu. Asi khaktaneba. Asi ani khaktaneba. Sigi slide sida. ꯑꯇꯣꯞꯄꯁꯤꯡꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯅꯣꯏ ꯄꯥꯔꯨꯕꯒꯤ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯃꯊꯧ ꯇꯥꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯈꯪ ꯂꯩꯔꯕꯅꯦꯕ ꯑꯣꯕꯤꯌꯁ ꯀꯣ ꯅꯤꯡꯁꯤꯡꯕ ꯃꯦꯃꯣꯔꯥꯏꯖ ꯇꯧꯒꯗꯕꯗꯤ ꯑꯁꯤ ꯑꯅꯤ ꯈꯛꯇꯅꯦꯕ So, okay. Saptanga theory of Kautilya. Isi buktam sirane. Okay. It will be helpful. Nabi phone tausi. Saptanga theory do ngai ko. Economic condition. Say. Keep this for now. Economic conditions during the Mauryan period. Main economic activity is the main economic activity, agriculture, trade navigation, money economy and currency. Money economy and currency. Akoina mamangda India da currency se uba phangba horabra coins. ꯃꯃꯥꯡꯒꯤꯗ ꯀꯣꯏꯟꯁꯦ ꯎꯈꯤꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯎꯈꯤꯗꯕ꯭ꯔꯥ ꯍꯥ ꯄꯟꯁꯃꯥꯔꯛ ꯀꯣꯏꯟ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯀꯩꯅꯣꯒꯤ ꯏꯀꯣꯅꯣꯃꯤꯁꯦ ꯃꯣꯗꯔꯟ ꯏꯀꯣꯅꯣꯃꯤꯁꯤꯗ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯎꯒꯗꯧꯔꯤꯕ ꯀꯣꯏꯟꯁꯤꯁꯨ ꯑꯌꯥꯝꯕꯅ ꯄꯟꯁꯃꯥꯔꯛ ꯀꯣꯏꯟꯁ ꯑꯣꯏꯒꯅꯤꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯀꯣꯟꯅ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯤ ꯅꯤꯡꯊꯧꯒꯤ ꯀꯩꯅꯣ ꯑꯥꯏꯀꯣꯅꯣꯒ꯭ꯔꯥꯐꯤ ꯌꯥꯎꯕ ꯃꯗꯨ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯗꯨꯗꯤ ꯀꯣꯟꯅ ꯂꯥꯛꯀꯅꯤ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯀꯤ ꯑꯣꯏꯅꯗꯤ ꯗꯣꯃꯤꯅꯦꯇꯦഡ് ꯕꯥꯏ ꯄꯟꯁꯃꯥꯔꯛ ꯀꯣꯏꯟꯁ ꯏꯀꯣꯅꯣꯃꯤꯁꯦ ꯃꯅꯤ ꯕꯦꯁ ꯏꯀꯣꯅꯣꯃꯤꯅꯤ ꯃꯦꯟ ꯏꯀꯣꯅꯣꯃꯤꯛ ꯃꯦꯟꯁꯇꯦꯁꯤꯅ ꯑꯦꯒ꯭ꯔꯤꯀꯜꯆꯔ ꯑꯃꯁꯨꯡ ꯇ꯭ꯔꯦꯗ ꯀꯣ agriculture ꯌꯥꯔꯦ again ꯁꯤꯗ agriculture ꯁꯤꯗꯤ ꯂꯧꯗ ꯇꯧ ꯂꯝ ꯂꯩꯕꯥꯛ ꯂꯧꯗ ꯇꯧꯒꯗꯧꯕꯅꯤ ꯅꯠꯇ꯭ꯔꯥ so here ꯅꯣꯏꯅ ꯈꯪꯒꯗꯧꯕꯗꯤ state owned land sita land state owned land state ꯅ own ꯇꯧꯕ ꯂꯝ private ꯅ own ꯇꯧꯕ ꯂꯝ ꯀꯣ sida terminology sita land ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯁꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯅꯣ sita ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯁꯤ ꯀꯔꯤꯅೋ state owned land ꯀꯣ ꯃꯗꯨꯒ ꯁꯤꯇꯥꯁꯦ ꯀꯅꯥꯅ ꯌꯦꯡꯁꯤꯜꯂꯤ ꯁꯤꯇꯥꯙ꯭ꯌꯛꯁ and cultivation was carried with hired labor or land was leased out to individual cultivators or sharecroppers type of land ꯖꯤꯌꯣ ꯁꯔꯀꯥꯔꯒꯤ ꯂꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯦ ꯁꯤꯇꯥ private land ꯂꯩꯔꯦ then pasture for the livelihood to feed ꯀꯣ livelihood ꯁꯦ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏ ꯁꯟ ꯂꯣꯏꯔꯒ ꯁꯟꯗꯣ ꯆꯥꯐꯝ ꯂꯩꯇꯕꯗꯤ ꯌꯥꯗꯦꯅ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯍꯥꯟꯅꯗꯤ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯇꯤ ꯄꯥꯛ ꯂꯩꯇ꯭ꯔꯦ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛꯁꯨ ꯈꯨꯡꯒꯪꯗꯗꯤ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯂꯩꯅꯔꯤꯕꯅꯤ ꯍꯥꯏꯕꯗꯤ ꯁꯟ ꯁꯦꯟꯕꯒꯤ ꯃꯐꯝ ꯀꯔꯤ ꯇꯔꯃꯤꯅꯣꯂꯣꯖꯤ ꯑꯃ ꯂꯩꯕꯅꯦ ꯑꯦꯛꯖꯦꯛꯇꯤ ꯀꯥꯎꯔꯦ ꯁꯟꯁꯥꯕꯨꯡꯒ ꯍꯥꯏꯅꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯂꯩꯔꯤꯕꯀꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯨꯝꯕꯗꯨꯅꯤ ꯑꯩꯈꯣꯏꯅ ꯍꯧꯖꯤꯛ ꯚꯤꯂꯦꯖ ꯄꯥꯁꯇꯔꯁ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯍꯦꯜꯞ ꯕꯥꯏ ꯗ ꯑꯦꯟꯇꯥꯌꯔ ꯀꯝꯃ꯭ꯌꯨꯅꯤꯇꯤ private property ꯗꯤ ꯕꯦꯗꯤꯛ ꯄꯤꯔꯤꯌꯠꯇꯒꯤ ꯂꯩꯈ꯭ꯔꯦꯅ land cow for example lamda leite hai wane ba lamda su kona later vedic lakudadi territoriality ki concept lakrena ko so asida noina khangjin gado hai babu different types of land lai sarkar gi lam lai private lam lai community gi lam lai ko aduda noina khangado ba terminology sita land private land ko rate of taxes asinga sai haipet hai naina kramale ha early Vedic to the private land like early Vedic to the more they were pastoralists. So idea of this is my property on land with a pag like tree ko. Later Vedic to give you like rate of taxes. You know, very unlikely that a uniform tax was levied over the entire areas as the fertility of the soil varied from region to region, varied from 1/4 to 1/6. Tax rate, megasthenes na pyramid tax rate kaya no 1/4, but it may be more. So, it was most likely that this was the figure of the fertile region of Pataliputra. Nasidi, our general information they call exam the very unlikely. Do khang da badi yaad ba. Kari no ne. Ubra. 1/6 of the produce could be claimed by king. Most Sanskrit texts. अभी टैक्स रेट की वेरिएशन दुनेरा मेगासेनिस तिंदी 1/4 हाई रहे अयाम संस्कृत टैक्स मतलब संस्कृत टैक्स ना 1/6 हाई रहे अर्थशास्त्र ना 1/5 हाई रहे मेगासेनिस ना हाई रही दुने क्वाइट युवांग वांग है टैक्स रेट से अदुबु who was Megasthenes ambassador to the court of Chandragupta Maurya natra aduna magi tax to around the cities oibnena khar helam su yai maybe hojiksu lamgi taxes mayam se municipality areas in the Haley, Mamanju Haley, Natra. It may be that. Number is not very important, but possible that there are various rates over across the empire. Okay. It states that the tax rate dependent on nature of irrigation facilities. Okay. Asida agriculture adu da yamna din nainadre. Adubu it is umpire state to lairagadi irrigation activities laigani haibusidi yam lu habi khanjin lubada yam labna thokpo oideba yam luba oideba ko common sense apply tabo matamda dum tak taeba and more so because agriculture was the mainstay of the economy. Agriculture is the economy mainstay oiragadi. Karamaina nang you have to take care of your agriculture for the state to prosper. Ekoi the butau the wani. Manipur agriculture department di lai thabakari taurige. And one more funny thing. Ekoi noi ko na administrator oiraga na tagna board ka lepaga na khanau ko. Aidi okay. Other sources of revenue. Arthashastra refers to a state monopoly of various industries. Mines. Mines kari kawi khani. State monopoly haibadi state na khakta operate tawbu yaba industries kharasu lairi bako. So state monopoly se hawjik su lairi na India. Atomic industry private tawbu yabro. No, manufacture of salt, mines, manufacture of salt and manufacture of wine. State ki monopoly ne cause hai. Carino si tauris na. Soire. Yara kaile. Yara. Principal crops. Matamadugi principal crop. Rice, barley, millet, wheat, sugarcane, most of the pulses, peas and oil seeds. Asi yung. Asi ekoi ki present economy ka mug link tau yari ne. Geography ka. Rice suyawi, wheat suyawi. Adu si barley, millets, pulses, peas and oil seeds. Yauri vanatra. Adu India ki consumption of millets and other food crops, food grains, apart from wheat and rice, is on a declining trend since the Green Revolution. Area under cultivation for millets and other food crops is on a downward trend since the Green Revolution. Food chains the home malakpa, agriculture pattern the home malakpa. Aduga housing na mukari tauri, amuk revive taung na bahon rakpa. Kari you know, agriculture se dominated by wheat and food grain. Monoculture, the food, wheat and food grain, wheat and wheat, asigi limitations, mayam sulairi. Hana ekhoina charam bachinja principal crops in millets, jawar, raji, bajra, mayam with good micronutrients. The diabetes, but we stop eating that. Then pulses, peas and oilseed. Rice and wheat ta karigi adumuk dependent or you know. Hana sara meba food crops in isi. Adu atopa food crops in marginalized or rice and barley in why they are dominating. See the Green Revolution, food security, adu multiple minimum support price. Me amlo link ta udar history the loina root the yao ne ka link ta udi haibe mathau Artisans living in towns had to pay taxes either in cash or kind or work free for the king. Traders and artisans were organized in association called srenis or guilds. Here I go. Term used for taxes. Yes, asidimuk terminology. Haitabi adre sima. Bali, land tax. Baga, king's share of the agricultural produce. Sulka, cluster or toll tax. And Kara. Terminology में हमसे खंगजिलो बाली बागा सुल्का कारा हिरण्या विष्टि Okay. यारेको Vishti as a forced contribution of labor. So, terminology di pabli kauni ko. So general political history si lawyer di I am the every class I am lawyer because the demand of the examination is such that what is a story to the hung ko. We have to focus on this kind of nitty-gritties. Trade. Trade ta ini mathau tade international trade, internal trade. Yare lawyer to the different types of goods. Mostly carried out with the Greek world and Burma. Import major import se karino horse, gold, linen and glass. Export to this spices, pearls, diamond, cotton textile, ivory, cannon shells. Balance of trade very much in favor of India. Sini. Housing ne karino balance of trade always deficit. Thai nadi kari balance of trade always in favor of India. Western historian karana India se पृथ्वी की गोल सिंह ने पृथ्वी की लाइव gold में से इंडिया ला लो इन because they were importing goods from India and India was importing very less because self sufficiency India की agroclimatic conditions ही है desert चु लाई रहे snow capped mountain लाई रहे glacier लाई रहे dense forest लाई रहे mangroves लाई रहे हाँ coastal region सूरे बा सूद करी लाई रहे tundra सु खरे लाई रहे मतलब हिमालय रोमदा almost every ecosystem in India like very diverse subcontinent ka. So then guild and Srenis. Masai town ki trade organization में हम दो को यार ची असीदा नो खंगिंग के ऊपर करी ना each Sreni was headed by its president called Pramukha or Jathaka. ऐसी कहते हैं इन्होंने सीधे खंग ईशिन के दो और memorize था वो दो Trade and commerce लाई रहे अपने ना traders की organization लाई रहे मतलब की organization की head तो कनानो Pramukha or Jathaka लाई रहे you just need to remember this line also handicrafts types of handicrafts I बता रहे ना को chief 18 handicrafts है exact क्या नो nobody knows but maru ओइबा तरा निपान लाई सिलाई री में हमसे leather work potters painter textile you don't need to remember everything but just know that there are multiple professions in the Mauryan empires and they are organized into guilds and the guilds is headed by Pramukha. Trade route. See, asida trade route se sidane geographical sense la kalo se. North to southwest route, Sravasti to Pratisthana, Sravasti to Rajagriha. North to southeast route, Ganges and Yamuna course, east west. Asidi waterways ne both inland the can say Leibak Suchali waterways so how's it national waterway project ka tawri na ko hanadagi we use these rivers for navigation and trade and commerce and asida noina aina noida focus ta hunning badi map ancient map and the present name Sravasti and Pratisthana karai de lai Sravasti and Rajagriha karai de no modern names na karino ha The royal highway running from Taxila region in the west to Pataliputra in the east was the crucial route. See, seaports. The road extended eastward along the Ganges to the Tamralipti port, important seaport during Mauryan times. Tamluk, Tamralipti in the east coast, Bengal Dakar, Bharuch and Sapora in the west coast. ꯑꯁꯤ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯑꯁꯤꯗꯗꯤ ꯅꯣꯏ NCERT ꯄꯥꯕꯗꯁꯨ ꯊꯦꯡꯅꯔꯛꯀꯅꯤ ꯑꯁꯤ these areas. So what do? You go to map. Map ꯇ ꯌꯦꯡꯒꯗꯧꯕ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯤꯕ ꯔꯤꯖꯟ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯃꯦꯞꯇ ꯂꯣꯀꯦꯠ ꯇꯧꯒꯗꯧꯕ ꯑꯗꯨꯒ ancient names and modern names ꯈꯪꯒꯗꯧꯕ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯟ ꯌꯥꯝ ꯍꯪꯕꯅꯦ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯟꯁꯦ ꯅꯍꯥꯟ 2000 ꯀꯌꯥꯒꯤꯅꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯅ I don't 2023 ꯔ ꯀꯌꯥꯅꯣ ꯈꯪꯗꯦ ꯀꯣꯏꯁꯟ ꯃꯌꯥꯝ ꯍꯪꯕꯅꯦ ꯃꯨꯆꯤꯔꯤ ꯑꯗꯨ ꯑꯗꯥ ꯀꯥꯏꯅ ꯃꯌꯥꯝꯁꯦ ꯄꯤꯁꯤꯜꯂꯦ which of the following is correct with reference to ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯒ ꯃꯨꯆꯤꯔꯤ they give some different names terminology ꯗꯨ ꯑꯣꯏꯕꯅꯤꯅ ꯈꯪꯗ꯭ꯔꯦꯕ Buddhist site important seaport trading centers kind of mayam pire answer to the karino ports ko so aduna important trading ports plus their present names and map location ko okay money economy and currency asa koi modern economy se based on money and currency ko barter system lairamgani adubu by this time the economy is already monetized money system coinage system like raidana ko so we will discuss a little bit on that the use of currency become fairly common feature of the modern period use it not only for trade but even for the government to pay officers in cash there are punch mark coins and then sida say asi these coins were called panna or karshapana asika kunino ningsinga do punch mark coin and this panna or karshapana mostly made of silver and copper number of coins with symbols of peacocks and hill and crescent have been discovered panna and karshapana chayo asida question ama laire coins coins ekhoina hojik chandi si yengba matamda script khra iraga thamdra inscription 1 rupee ga have the 1 rupee ga thadro Mauryan ki coin the inscription se laibra ekhoi hojik chandi the inscription se laiba dumaina kona later guptas matamda atopa matamda inscription se khoi thengna rakani ko coins da Gupta ki matamdadi so Maurya ki matamdadi koi inscription or script inscription se koi tab ubra moi coins da laite ko ayamana punch mark coin aduga script coins da script when ibudo adu thengnade maybe later on after the post Maurya di thengnarai ko adu Maurya ki matamdadi koi script se coins da mami tabadi udri ko so si ore Maurya ki mathangdagiri art and culture sine so I class se ayamana art and culture plus your prelims part ani maxi link tawra dum sakani ko every kind of every part of history so asi this model will be more helpful than tongan art and culture segregated on the pabadagi ko so ngasi di loire di Maurya ko loire hoy okay noise aina noise lari ama group ta tharake PDF ne asi sumain to have the practice to se aina noida test ꯇꯧꯕꯗꯨꯗꯤ maybe 100 200 question set ꯇꯧꯕ ꯉꯝꯗꯦꯅꯀꯣ. So what you do is every chapter पाबा लोइबा chapter खुदिंगी MCQ से follow. अदो हौजिक NCERT दिदे अदु लाइतेना. अबे अदु chapter wise MCQ लाइबसे पाक फंगन दबनेबको. So I'll send you Disha publication gini लाइबने अदु आई थारके. So every chapter class लोइबदा की बोइरो नत्र नंगना पाबा लोइरकोदा बोइरो मोगी question quality दो याम फै हाइबना तेबको. अदुबु practice की याम कानबा. Plus test तौरिबसे करिगिनो हाइबगाना retention गिनेबा. अखोइना class ता हौजिक ताखिबा मयामदो kayam retain tawuni class ai thorak matamda nang test to muk torak matamdi that retention will increase aduga question nature su khara khangja hore ka so that is the best way prelims ki oina di ka paba loiba chapter khudingi MCQ se khotpa aduga kholaga aina he hek nahana ju haibudo ABC du khotpa nataba khotpa loiraba matungda answer mayam do analyze tawba question ga answer analyze tawba aduga revise tawba nang soil mayam do chum thokpa sumaina sum charkhadi by the time you've completed your this classes you will be at least 50% ready 100 ready hoira ko 40 to 50% ready for the examination aduna hena kana gani adu padragi khangre ko ai no group to in tharage adu ko dumain tawse so any